Good evening, everyone. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle from Washington tonight. The Great Deflection. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Now, the globalists insisted that if the House didn't relent and push for the $60 billion for that losing war effort in Ukraine, well, America would lose credibility because Putin would march straight through to Berlin and then China would be emboldened to move on Taiwan. Weakness is what the world would see. But now that Speaker Mike Johnson has made Zelensky, Raytheon, and Northrop Grumman very happy by getting that money for Ukraine, we all have our respect back as a country, right? Of course not. If you care about the way America is perceived around the world, you should be enraged that Donald Trump is on trial in New York. These are the types of election year shenanigans that happen in other countries, in third world autocracies, not in the United States. Come on. But his press minions are ecstatic. Anything to avoid covering the border or gas prices or food prices.
From where I was sitting, he seemed basically inert. He kind of slumped his shoulders and was kind of, I'm a slump-shouldered person, he was kind of slump-shouldered like this when he came in, and while he was sitting there, he was kind of leaning heavily on the desk. There were times when he leaned from one side to the other. He seems thinner than I have seen him in the past. He seems considerably older, and he seems annoyed. Resigned, maybe angry. He seems like a man who's miserable to be here. I'm no body language expert. He seemed old and tired and mad.
Well, look, if that's the new barometer, well, what's Biden's excuse? Because if Trump is mad, he has a right to be, and so do all of you. An impartial observer knows that the New York media is doing everything it can to influence the jury. On the eve of the trial, the illustrious New York Slimes published a piece titled, "Will a Mountain of Evidence Be Enough to Convict Trump?" In the official record, the case is known as the people of the state of New York versus Donald Trump. And for now, the people have the stronger hand. They have insider witnesses, a favorable jury pool, and a lurid set of facts about a presidential candidate, a payoff, and a porn star. Now, every juror should have been asked. I don't think they were. Maybe they were. I don't think they were. If he or she read or even skimmed or even saw that headline, read that article. And by the way, the New York Times doesn't even pretend to be objective. You have to read to the end to read the pivotal point about how their star witness, Michael Cohen, has his own credibility issues to overcome. Of course, he's a convicted felon and an admitted liar. But at least he has non-lawyers on TV trying to lend a hand.
Sometimes you have, and you've all talked about having a witness that you have to rehabilitate when they get on the stand. I think it's also true that Michael Cohen, along with the documents, but just his personality, he may actually be a very good witness, especially with these jurors. I mean, wait and see, but he communicates well.
He communicates well. Low bar. The man's a jughead, and even if former celebrity reporters can't see it, he's a jughead. Now, as we've demonstrated previously, Bragg's case is the epitome in election meddling. The underlying payments, if anything, are misdemeanors, and the statute of limitations has already run on them. Yet this is all secondary to the regime media. Whereas real reporters love covering real campaigns, these people love avoiding them.
This is just the first of potentially 4 criminal trials that Trump could face this year going into this presidential election. He still needs to talk to voters.
Right. Joe Biden is doing the opposite of a Rose Garden strategy. He's out there on the campaign trail.
Okay. All right. I forgot about all those packed out Biden rallies and, the convenience store stops. Yeah. Those convenience store stops are buzzing with enthusiasm. The only one excited was the cameraman there. I don't even think that person was too excited. Now, almost everything you're going to hear about this trial, almost everything, is pure propaganda at this point. It's meant to demoralize Trump supporters, but what it really does is expose the media.
He sits behind the defense table in that courtroom. His political team has been scrambling, trying to figure out how to improvise his campaign schedule. They get 1 day a week. It's a Wednesday in the middle of the week. There's only so much you can do with the limited time that they have.
Only so much you can do with the limited time they have. Again, a real journalist would be concerned that the voters are getting a distorted picture with Trump sidelined by a state prosecutor of the opposite party. A real journalist would see that if this practice becomes the norm, we'll never have a real election again, just a series of bogus indictments by state AGs or city DAs designed to skew the campaign. But look, these phony journalists aren't thinking about the ramifications of any of this. They're just relishing the moment and acting as the unofficial comms team of the Biden campaign.
It seems as though Biden is closing the gap that Donald Trump had. They were supposed to have a campaign rally in North Carolina. Now, with nothing on the schedule, there is nothing for about over a week. The reality now sinking in that it can't just be Wednesdays and Saturdays in this kind of campaign.
Well, that's the whole point, isn't it? Just as Biden needed COVID as the excuse to keep him in the basement, he now needs Trump stuck in court and off the trail if he's ever going to have a prayer of re-election and a bunch of drop boxes. Now, will this work? Well, not if Trump plays his cards right. Most Americans, I think, already have their own view of this trial. And there's no point in his relitigating it every day outside of the courtroom. So I'd say instead of talking about the trial, pivot to the news of the day and then put Biden on trial. Reiterate that Americans deserve a real campaign, a real agenda for prosperity, a real border, and I think that he, the candidate, will deliver all of it. Come voting time, voters should reject what's a grand effort at deflection. And remember that it's Biden's record that's on trial, and he should be convicted on multiple counts of aggravated assault, causing grievous injury to the America we knew and still love. And that's The Angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.